Hello everyone, I hope you've been well. Today I'm going to be chatting about one of my most recent costumes, my Umbreon from Pokemon. I recently made this for a convention, but unfortunately I wasn't able to wear it, but I did get a really fantastic photo shoot at Golden Hour, and I am very excited to share more about the costume and kind of where I approached it from. Now, I did have a bit of a look online and found some, they're called Pokemon Gajinkas basically. It's like a humanoid version of a Pokemon, taking things like what element they are, or like different colours or schemes or whatnot as well. I found a few images that I quite liked. I didn't end up sticking to them perfectly, but rather took inspiration from them. Pretty much, I think I ended up calling this one, it's almost like my Druid Rogue Umbreon, because that's certainly the vibe I got. A lot of this process I did quite quickly, so I definitely made a lot of it up along the way. With costumes like this, what I kind of like to do is make sure I have a pretty good base that I know that I'm making or that I'm happy with. Then I basically just add a bunch of accessories, whether it's references to Pokemon or again the color scheme or that kind of more druidy look I was going for, and I would try on the costume, and wherever I felt like there was maybe a bit of a gap, or if I wanted to take some really lovely kind of waist up portrait photos, were there enough elements, whether it was jewelry or accessories. And then I basically went through my hoard of different things that I already own and kind of put stuff together until I was happy. I think the pretty cool thing about this costume is I mostly used things I already had. I did have to purchase a separate wig for this, and I got a lovely black lace front, kind of one of those ones which I knew I'd be using again and again anyway. And then I also bought some pants for this costume and a few moon charms. That's it. Everything else I already had from either past costumes or accessories that I kind of, whenever I finish a costume and I'm maybe not giving it away, or I don't plan on using it anymore, I kind of tear it apart and just use the stuff again. I'm pretty keen on cosplay recycling where we can, and this was definitely a good example of just completely doing that and having some fun with it. Plan is I will go through the costume and some of the details I added. We'll do a quick makeup look, and then I'll show you the full costume as well as sharing some of those lovely Golden Hour photos. I'll be sure to share these, and then I will also do some close-ups as well. Starting off with the top, I suppose. I went for a bodysuit look just because that's what I'm more comfortable in. A little bit hard to see with all the black fabric here, but basically I had this black bodysuit which I got, oh my gosh, maybe like 2 years ago. Basically I had gotten it for a different costume which I didn't end up doing, but I've used it many times since, but I just thought this would be really perfect. It had these really lovely puffy sleeves, which is how, as you can see here, I've actually cut out part of it to kind of emulate Umbreon's rings. The really cool thing about this costume is that there are a few different lights as well. So if I turn this guy on, you can kind of see it there. It definitely obviously looks a little bit better in the dark, but all of the rings on her arms and on her legs as well do light up. So that was just like a fun little cute thing, because I know that Umbreon, I think they communicate by flashing their little rings, so that was just a fun little nod to that as well. I did end up adding a hood to this as well. This lovely gold fabric, again, is something I got maybe like a year and a half ago on sale, and I just quite liked it. It's kind of like an oil slick gold, which I just thought was adding something, again, a little bit more interesting to the costume, and then I didn't have to buy any more gold fabric as well. Moving on to the pants, I bought kind of these like wider baggy pants, I suppose, and then cut out the thigh and did very similar to the arms. For this I used a kind of ring shaped base in foam, and then ended up sewing the gold over it just so it held a bit more structure, and because the gold fabric's a little bit stretchy, it wasn't the most fun to sew, so where I could kind of either double it with other fabric or with foam, it just made it a lot easier to work with. Again, these do light up as well. They're just little fairy lights with the little battery packs, and by clicking these, they also light up. It was very fun. After trying it on, I felt like it was missing a little bit around kind of the waist area. So I had this leftover gold trim from my Marika costume, like just like a tiny bit left over. So I put it around the waist, just the front bit. I didn't have enough for the back, but that's okay. And then I just put a little bit around the ankle as well, just to kind of tie in that gold detailing. For the tail, I didn't specifically want to make like an actual, I guess, like fox tail. So instead I did kind of an inspired one. I had a little bit of this kind of black sparkly fabric left over from, I think it was from my Superman costume is what I mostly used it for. Anyway, I had just a little bit left over, so I ended up using that to kind of, you know, tie in that night theme that Umbreon is, and then added a bit of the gold as well as the black. So basically what this does is it ties around my waist, and then this bit kind of hangs down. So it definitely emulates a tail, but I do think it's a bit more of like the druid fantasy look that I was going for. Again, these little kind of gold cord details were from a project probably years ago. A lot of this stuff I only had little bits of, so it was really lovely to be able to use that up. But this turned out really lovely, and it was obviously very fun swishing it around as well. And then for the ears, I did make some lovely long Umbreon ears. I had to, again, these are just kind of black fabric I had lying around with some gold fabric in the ribbon, and then I just basically glued them to a headband. They're a little bit heavy, so I did have to add these like little wig clips. They just kind of snap in, they just keep things in place, and these are obviously very cute as well. Now this is the wig that I did. I was a little bit unsure about how to style it. I ended up kind of doing like a half up, half down. I just quite liked the long hair. I just felt like, again, it kind of really matched that druid vibe I was going for. Added a bit of gold as well just to tie it in, and then just kind of, the wig came quite curly when I got it, so I just straightened it a little bit, but I kind of kept a bit of texture just to kind of give a bit of interest as well. Now for the fun part, accessories. One of the first things I did was I made these gold cuffs. These are made from Warbler with that gold fabric wrapped around, and then a bit of Velcro and felt to kind of keep it together. I had 2 for my wrist and 2 for my ankles as well. Again, it's really to tie in that, I guess, the rings that Umbreon has all around them. Again, it was just kind of something to join all the different pieces because it was quite a broken up costume. I kind of, any like seams or things to kind of link it to the rest of it, because I quite wanted it to flow really nicely. So wherever I could like add gold or little cuffs or something, I feel like it really helped out. Next was the belt. I ended up using, I've got this belt here which I have literally used for so many different costumes. I just really love it. Basically I took these little jars that you can get from any kind of cheap craft store, and I filled them with different things like salt and some sticks and some flowers and some tea. Again, this is like that, I use these for a lot of D&D or fantasy costumes. It's just like the perfect little, I don't know, perfect little accessory of like magic users or something. And then I do obviously have my little Pokeball as well, got to have a little nod, and then I had a little moon charm as well. I actually ended up using my mask as well. This is from Lightning Cosplay. It was kind of the base, and then I just painted it this gold color and had one of the moon charms. I thought this was really cool. I know this is a cat and not necessarily a fox, but I feel like adding this again to that druid vibe was just really fun. I added some gold chain that was left over from something too, and I just kind of wore this on my hip, and I don't know, I just thought it was like a really cool added thing as well. And like, I love this mask. I need to like use it much more, but it does make a very cool decor piece as well. It's so cute. For the waist area, again, it was looking a little bare, so I ended up making, so this is going to be a little bit tricky to show, but I ended up making kind of like a waist belt, if you will, like using this chain was, I think most of it was from a Belle Dandy costume like 3 years ago. I just had all these scraps of chain. So yeah, it was very cool to finally use everything and put it together. A bunch of those moon charms, the little feather charms were from some old earrings from when I was a teenager. Like, I really just went into my hoard and just picked up any gold pieces I had and smushed it together. But I love this. This is something I would definitely use in another costume as well. I did end up using these, I think they're actually meant to be like headpieces, but I just kind of tied them together. It's these little leaves on wire with some white gems on it, and then there's a little heart charm that I painted red. I wore this just kind of as like an underbust thing, again just to tie it together and add a bit more interest to that place. These ones I originally bought for my America costume, but I've used them for a variety of other things because they're very pretty, whether it's like around the waist or around the head or anything like that. But that was another cute thing. Next were necklaces, of course. I didn't do too much with it. I did thrift this gold chain, I suppose. It's a little bit thicker, which was quite a nice statement piece, and then again I just used one of the moon charms and an old earring, and then I just wanted a slightly longer one, so I have this necklace. Usually I use this on my forehead as like a pendant, but what I did is instead of the red I kind of had it just facing gold and wore that as well. I think the chain is quite lovely with its texture, and those two just suited each other quite lovely. And then last, of course, were the shoes. This is kind of where like the rogue element tied in a little bit, just because I was a little bit inspired by that as well. I did end up just wearing some black flats, and these were comfy and easy enough to put on, but to add a little bit more, and this is something I saw in one of the kind of images I was going off of, is having these lovely, these are socks but I'll just show you on my hand, these lovely kind of like fishnet socks. Again, it just added another like really interesting visual element, and I feel like it went really well with the rest of the costume. So this combo with the flats then, and then I basically had the gold cuff around it as well. It just gave a really interesting look. I think when I do my own original characters or costumes, I love adding texture where I can. I kind of pick a color scheme, which was obviously like the black and the gold for this one, and then I just basically add different texture or different trims and whatnot, just because I love visually. I think the photos turn out really fantastic. And then the very last thing, which I'm going to try and show, it's going to be a bit tricky, is my moon staff as well. This one was really interesting. I basically had no idea what I was doing and just kind of started making it. The base staff is actually a bow staff I made for a bow costume from Critical Role, I want to say like 2-3 years ago. But I never ended up finishing the costume, so I've just had the staff. I basically hacked part of it off and was like, yeah, it's got some interesting texture, it's got a bit of gold already, repainted parts of it, and then just kept adding stuff till I was happy. I knew I definitely wanted the moon, and then this little orb here of course lights up. I did end up kind of, it's almost a little bit magical girly. I basically added all of these like ribbons and whatnot, but I feel like with the black and gold it did give me druid vibes, and I've got some bows down the very bottom as well, again using kind of chain or charms that were just left over. These two were kind of necklaces. I think this one was from Illyria, this one was from Jester. Like again, it was just really using anything. This little charm here was from my grandma that I ended up painting. I've got some gold ribbon, a bit of that lovely starry fabric as well, and again it was very much, I kept adding until I felt like when I held it next to my costume I was really happy with it, and yeah, I think it's really cute. It's not like the best made thing ever, but I really loved it. The moon up here is actually made from aluminium foil and then foam clay and then just kind of glued on. It's not the most stable thing, but the way I kind of wrapped the fabric around it just gave it a bit more structure. So that was a really quick and fun thing to do. Okay, so that is all of the costume. If you have any questions about it, just let me know. I kind of mostly hodgepodge things together, but I think it turned out quite well. Now I'm going to hop into the makeup and show you how I do kind of the darker cat eye look. For my Umbreon look, I start off with a base of foundation and powder. I go in and do a base light shade all over my lids and then darken all of the creases up. To give that kind of darker, smoky look, I do make this a little bit more intense than usual. Of course, I can't forget the lower lash line as well. To give my eyes a bit of a pop, I go in with a gold eyeshadow, which will match the rest of Umbreon's costume. I use an angled brush to line my lower lash line, and then I go in with a little bit of red as well, just referencing her red eyes. I use a pretty light pink blush and then go in with some highlighter, and then go in with my favourite eyeliner pencil as well, just to make the inner corners nice and shiny. I also kept the brows pretty simple, just giving them a brush and then going in with a black eyeshadow to match the wig. Using a black eyeliner next, I'll line my eyes, doing a bit of a cat eye, kind of similar to what I did with Espeon, and then just adding a little bit of a point on the inner corner just to kind of accentuate that cat look. Of course, I've got to go in and use some mascara on the lower lash line, and then I also take a black liner and then just tight line a little bit again to give that smoky effect, and then of course I've got to put on the false lashes. I go in with a light pink lipstick and then go over that with the gold gloss that I also used with Espeon. After that, makeup is all good to go, and then it's time to put on the costume as well as the gold headpiece. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learnt some new things or some new tips. If you have any questions, let me know, otherwise I'll see you in the next video.